Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. Hopefully you're all having a wonderful day, wherever you are and whatever you're doing. Today, as it's been a little while, we are going to cover Polkadot, and this is really going to be a video about the future of Polkadot, and we're going to be looking really specifically at Gavin Wood's presentation on a vision for the future of Polkadot, and we're going to be talking about some of the changes, some of the drastic changes that are being proposed, the differences and the similarities, and kind of what is being proposed. You know, the very vision for Polkadot in regards to the current one that we're following with this kind of relay chain and these parachains that exist outside of it is very much changing in regards to leasing, in regards to fee structure, in regards to the kind of parachain role perhaps and identity. And actually Polkadot itself is going from a kind of something that's at the center of this to actually being something that engulfs everything that's taking place here. So we're going to be covering that. It sounds rather daunting. However, we'll be looking at and hearing from Gavin Wood himself on some of the keynotes. He did a brilliant draw. He's a very eccentric guy, Gavin Wood, which I absolutely love. I think why not be eccentric in a world where everyone tries to be the same? Be different. And this is the kind of original drawing for Polkadot, which you can see illustrated here on the Polkadot website. And it was, you had to go to technology to find this. You know, we spoke about this concept and we love Polkadot. We think it's great. I love it when a blockchain does something different. And we think Polkadot's absolutely done that. Gavin Wood's one of the brightest minds in the entire space. So are many of the people working on Polkadot. And actually in regards to an ecosystem, I see more innovation in regards to Polkadot and its ecosystem, its parachains, than I do pretty much most chains. But this is the interesting thing, because how are parachains going to get affected by all this? And what is this I'm talking about? Well, we'll be covering that. This was, of course, the model that we've been working towards. And this is his new draw of the model for Polkadot, where we have the relay chain in the middle. And then we have all these parachains outside of it. Polkadot's now expanding. These relay chains are coming in, and these parachains are coming in, and applications are coming in. It's going to become far more accessible to developers. Is that detrimental to the people who have already built and have won the auctions? Well, he of course talks about this. Of course, he thought about all this. And is that kind of similar to maybe what other ecosystems have done, where they are the engulfing chain and everything kind of operates within it? So let's unpack it all. It's very, very interesting. I really want to start off with his idea for, you know, the proposal, a possible future. So just remember that this is only a proposal. You know, these are decentralized ecosystems. These are decentralized software, essentially. And you can vote on this for yourself. And I certainly will be. One place I'd really like to take this channel is because, you know, not only am I a trader, an investor, I love blockchain. I really do think it's fascinating, and I love the social aspects of it. I love the technical aspects of it, even though I'm not a developer. You know, I've got a good understanding of it. I speak to way smarter developers on massive projects than myself. Of course, we've interviewed most of the parachains that there are out there, and we've got quite a few more coming on. But you know, it's absolutely fascinating, and I think for me, entertaining, debating this stuff, talking about the future of Polkadot, and certainly in this case with some of the drastic changes that have been proposed, although there's a lot of similarities. You know, I wonder how this is going to affect everything. So really, this is going to be a lot of clip watching. It's very interesting talking about their kind of original model to now. They did originally have the parachain kind of relay chain model on the front of their website. Now they've changed it to this. And I think this is in line with a lot of what Gavin was talking about. Of course, we are going to be starting off with playing a clip of Gavin talking about a possible future for Polkadot. We'll be going through it all, and then we'll talk about the kind of change in design, how it will look, what the future will be like, XCM a little bit. You know, we'll cover a wide range of things. But best place to start is hearing it from the horse's mouth, which of course is Mr. Gavin Wood. I'm not calling him a horse. Just saying that, you know, he's the best person to hear his proposal off of. So let's get into it, guys.
So I'm going to put forward a possible future. Agile Polkadot, if you want a name. We depart from the leases and the slots model. And rather, we accept that Polkadot is this bunch of compute cores. Cores in a ubiquitous computer. time on these cores, which we might reasonably call core time, although across the industry is perhaps also considered block space, can be sold periodically. Periodically, core time can be bought and used. Here's a proposal. To Polkadot native sales, this is Polkadot native in that it's not secondary market, it's primary market. Bulk and instantaneous. Bulk would be a monthly sale, every, say, 4 weeks, periodic, of core time. You buy core time on one core, lasts 4 weeks. Instantaneous would be similar to what the Parathreads pay-as-you-go model that we said is, now sort of on demand, as the nomenclature has changed, but the principle is the same. There is an instantaneous market for usage of Polkadot, and specifically usage of a core in Polkadot. There may be many cores that you can buy at once, maybe not, who knows. That's the point of the market.
So the cores, it's probably worth me just explaining that a little bit. I kind of like the parachain, the slots, if you will. Right now there's about 50. Gavin would touch on it at the start of this speech. You know, we're looking at 500 to 1,000, potentially hundreds. And actually, the interesting thing about this is a core at the moment is kind of specific to one chain, one parachain. But actually, with this new proposal, it could be, you can have multiple in there. So it kind of expands the developer slots. Probably not the best way to put it, that you can get. So just thought it's worth touching on that. Core rental, talking about the same concepts as parachains. He's just proposing that we get rid of the 2-year leases, that there's a kind of new model that's proposed. And this gives me a little bit of anxiety, of course. But at the same time, I think it's very exciting.
Market. It's an ongoing sale of core time for immediate usage. Doing this, we remove a lot of the opinionation that is present within Polkadot, and therefore remove the potential for long-term design flaws. We maximize the agility. We maximize the potential for the market to figure out the details. Take a bit further look into sort of bulk sales. This is the idea of a 4-weekly sale. So 4 weeks of core time at a fixed price. So everyone pays the same price. This is not necessarily a final proposal. This is more something that can be discussed, and if it turns out to be a good idea, which I suspect it might, implemented. Relatively easily, I might add. We might target 75% of available cores, maybe less, maybe more, who knows, some amount. The price would adapt up and down depending on the deviation from this amount, and unrented cores would go to the instantaneous market. They'd sort of fall down, and they could be rented on an instantaneous, on an immediate basis. Very importantly, special considerations, I imagine, would be necessary for pre-existing tenants. And this is something that I would talk about in a second. Talk about the instantaneous sales briefly. Instantaneous sales is basically cores that are otherwise unused. They go into a sort of market maker or brokerage, on-chain, of course. Regulates the price, targets 100% usage of cores, and core time could be taken from the bulk market, sliced up, and partially placed in the instantaneous.
So, sorry to stop this, but it is a lot to unpack already. You have parachains and parathreads at the moment. You're going to move to bulk cores and instantaneous, which would be like your parathreads. Your bulk will be more like your parachains, if that makes sense.
Brokerage. And then, of course, the total sale revenue that the instantaneous brokerage gets would be split between those who provide their core time, not least the Polkadot network itself. Let's talk about the nature of this things. Purchased by chains through collators, pretty easy so far. It could be used to boost transaction throughput. You get an extra core, you can do twice as much processing, more or less. It can also be used to reduce latency. If the chain is only ticking along at 12 or 18 seconds, you have an extra core, you can now tick along at 6 seconds or 12 seconds for a period. It could also, in principle, power other things, more exotic things than parachains, like core contracts. talk about bulk core time, the nature of bulk core time. Now, this would be a concept exposed by potentially some particular parachain, a brokerage parachain. Now, the fun thing about bulk core time is that it's an asset. It doesn't need to be deployed directly. It doesn't need to be assigned directly. And because it's an asset, it can be used in the same way that other assets are used. It's a non-fungible asset, pretty much. I mean, it's fungible if it's literally for the same time period. But as soon as it gets sliced up, it becomes a non-fungible asset. And this non-fungible asset, in principle, can be exposed over XCM, which essentially means the brokerage can expose these purchased amounts of bulk core time to other chains that may want to allow them to be exchanged, traded on their markets. And this brokerage parachain, system parachain, can allow these chunks, which initially will be sold in 4-week periods, to be split up into multiple NFTs of smaller periods. And these chunks of core time could be consumed by the broker parachain in order to allow the owner to allocate computation on a Polkadot core. How would you use these things once they're consumed? You could assign it to a single parachain. This is exactly what is happening right now, except it doesn't happen month by month. But a single parachain operates on a single core. It could be assigned to a number of parachains for them to share.
So are we following along? It's the same kind of model, basically. They're just moving away from the 2-year leases. They're kind of not necessarily doing away with the parachain and parathread thing. They're just moving to bulk and instant sort of terminology, I guess. But with the bulk, it's a monthly sort of time period, but that monthly time period can be split, and this can, like a parachain, like let's say Moonbeam wants to give a star some more computational power, and they might lease out some of their core to Moonbeam to a star through this NFT. I mean, Gavin is a very smart guy. Polkadot is an extremely complex project. I think that's a barrier for a lot of people. I'm scratching the surface in my knowledge of Polkadot. I think Polkadot is such a great project. I really do. And I do genuinely think that this overall is going to, and he talks about it in a second, this idea of tinkerers, builders, actually expand the developer pool on Polkadot, make it more accessible, make it more a lower sort of threshold to get involved, and expand the builders. And blockchain's all about builders. It's the currency for crypto. Ethereum wouldn't be Ethereum without the developers, and the more developers, the better not the better the crypto, but the more use cases and all this kind of usage comes out of it. And that's what this is really about.
Taking turns on a core. It could be placed on the instantaneous market. Or it could be carved up and sold separately, maybe on a separate parachain even, through the NFT XCM interface. Well, that's all very good, but what if you want to exist on a core for a long time? Surely you need some sort of prediction of what the price is going. I would propose a rule. If you assign a fresh month of core time, when I say fresh, I mean directly having been purchased from Polkadot, then the brokerage records the price that was paid and the assignment, the para ID or para IDs it was assigned to. It records this for next month. And there is always an option of next month, the same purchaser paying the same or similar, maybe there's a capped price increase, for, amount of core time for the same assignment. This means that long-running assignments are able to clearly make predictions on their exposure, their price exposure, their costs. What does it mean for existing parachains in this model? Well, leases would continue as usual.
This is really important. This is a big question I certainly had listening to all this is, well, what happens to the existing? They get, I think, almost diluted a little bit in terms of there's going to be a lot more of them. It's going to be easier to do, you're kind of getting rid of the auction concept because they're going to be fixed in terms of pricing through a broker. You can really tell that Gavin Wood is likely a fan of the free market, and he's implementing that into Polkadot overall.
Right. It's like if you've already got a 2-year lease, it continues. No problem. Bulk pricing will be initialized by governance. I think, personally, it should start pretty low in order to minimize the barriers to entry. And then for the right of first refusal, rent controls will be in place and a floor price for the main price. And this would give long-term guarantees on the price paid and of guaranteeing slot availability. Potentially much more so than we have at present, where it's really only a 2-year guarantee. In principle, you would have clarity over indefinite future. What else does it mean? Well, at the moment, parachains have an essentially fixed block production rate. It's currently 12 seconds, pretty much, and it could be reduced to 6 seconds with a certain optimization that is hitting the ground soon. But in the future, it's much more likely that parachains, I think, will be more agile in terms of how often they produce blocks. It could easily be that a parachain shares a core with 1 or 2 other parachains, having a block every 12 seconds or 18 seconds. And then, if and when the transaction throughput of the parachain requires it, the parachain automatically goes to the instantaneous market, or perhaps even an OTC market that exists on some enterprising parachain somewhere, to purchase additional core time.
So, right now, so basically, there's this almost idea being implemented where, let's say you didn't want as fast a block time, you could partner with a couple of different parachains to use the same core, and then if you needed that extra fast finality, whatever it is, you can go and get that on the open market for the instantaneous market. I think that's essentially the essence of, it's kind of expanding the amount of builders that can actually take or build.
It would be the job of Cumulus to ensure that all core time purchased for a parachain is adequately utilized in an automatic fashion. Core time, when you have your cores, could in principle be what I've called compressed. This is not especially final terminology. In order to essentially combine multiple parachain blocks into the same relay chain core. And this would reduce the latency, although it would cost a bit in terms of bandwidth, because you're basically having to pay for the fixed price of opening and closing a block. Or they could be combined. So you can take 2 cores that are existing at the same time slot and actually get 2 full parachain blocks through, effectively reducing a parachain's time from 12 seconds to 6, or even from 6 seconds to 3. What this actually means in total is more transaction bandwidth when you need it, lower costs if you don't need it. Potential for high-performance multi-core chains that operate for a continuous period at a lower block rate, a faster block rate. A potential for periodic chains that sort of come alive, are very active for a while and then drop down again. Potentially for purely pay-as-you-go chains that operate only when users who want to transact have transactions waiting. Potential for low latency chains that produce blocks every 2 seconds, even less, even every 1 second, and maybe don't have a full amount of weight within their blocks, but are able to nonetheless get them pushed through the relay chain, finalized, and messages passed relatively fast. And I think an important point to note is that with the proposal, longer-term capital expenditure planning would be possible. All right, let's look at the cores. How can they be used? Well, core time will be...
So we'll probably leave that there. I don't think we need to go too much into the cores and how they can be used. the kind of picture that they have now on their website looks very similar to how Gavin would describe the cause. And I think this is a shift definitely towards this system. Again, he talks about this is the new kind of model for Polkadot. This was the old one. He spoke at the start about how, when you initially design a project, it's very rare that it goes exactly the way that you planned, and often it can take weird and wonderful turns, often for the better, sometimes for the worst. And this is all about optimizing, refocusing Polkadot for the benefit of Polkadot, the benefit of its users, the benefit of its parachains, the benefits of Polkadot, generally its ecosystem and everything. And as much as I'm excited about all this, I am somewhat, here's Gavin presenting his wonderful draw at the start about the kind of original vision, the vision that we're on. And then, of course, I'll just play this last clip of him talking about the newer vision and summarizing it. As much as I'm excited about this, I'm also uncertain, as somebody that trades the markets and watches the macro sort of trends and follows the kind of financial news flows and everything like that. I know markets don't like uncertainty. Maybe there's maybe that transpires with Polkadot. We'll see, but I do think that I'm on board with this. I just think I need to maybe explore it a bit more. But this is just an introduction to what was proposed. And this is only a proposal. Nothing is set in stone as of yet.
This is an artist impression, artistically drawn by me about half an hour ago, on what I think a better viewpoint on what Polkadot is, should be how it should be presented. Polkadot is not a relay chain in the middle and parachains on the outside, or at least it should not be from the perspective of anyone coming to Polkadot. In reality, Polkadot should be an integrated system, a single computer on which many applications run. Now, yes, there are important boundaries between the different components, the different business logic components of the chain that we call, roughly speaking, parachains. But this isn't so important to the user as we might accidentally think it is. What is more important is that what the user wants to do, they are able to do easily, transparently, quickly. The blobs here, the dots, are these applications, if you like. And the little dotted lines that break up this are, if you like, the paras. I don't want to say parachains, because that goads us into this kind of tunnel vision of one core per parachain, which is what Polkadot has been so far, but is not necessarily what it needs to be.
So this is a clear distinction that I tried to make earlier. It's going to make Polkadot a lot more accessible and available. It's going to become business-minded. Gavin's clearly a fan of the free markets. I want to know your thoughts in the comments, guys. I really do, because what do you think? I'm a big fan of Polkadot. I follow the project. I hold a large amount of Polkadot. And I hold quite a few of the parachains as well. And I want to see what could go on here. And actually, it could work in both against some of the existing parachains and with them, because a lot of them might end up consuming a lot of the cores and becoming these kind of... Right now, you've got one parachain slot per core. You could have one parachain that owns multiple cores, and that is the superior in terms of block time and everything parachain. I don't know, just speculating here.
These little blobs, if we do it right, should be able to interact with each other almost as easily if they're within the same dotted line segment as if they are not within the same dotted line segment. I say almost. We're never going to get, I don't think, to a point where it is exactly as easily. But we can make it quite similar. How are we going to do that? Let's talk about XCM. XCM is a language. If you want the transport layer, the thing that actually delivers the message, that's called X.
Let's not go into XCM. We know what XCM is. He talks about some of, what the implementations of XCM would be under this new kind of model. But it's a shift. If we sum it up via their website, it's a move from the technology view of this relay chain into this kind of a view. It's a move from this to this. And I've just shared some of my thoughts on it, my interest in it. And I'd love to know yours in the comment section. So if you've enjoyed this content, guys, a like is always greatly appreciated. So as a comment. And I'll catch each and every one of you in the next YouTube video. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe. Check out the Patreon if you want. And let me know your thoughts more importantly. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. See you in the next one.